Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Wednesday, December 10th, just a little before 6 o'clock at night. This is our daily recap video for trades and holdings within Ulti, LFGY, and SLTY. They're weekly paying option income ETFs from YieldMax, part of Group 1. If you're not following me already on X, at ETF_Inspector1, please do. I repost all the things about different ETFs we talk about, as well as let you know when videos are premiering. Starting off, Wall Street indexes rallied after Fed cuts interest rates. So we were wondering how things would work out. I did not get to pay too much attention, but I see the headlines at the end of the day. Ulti up 0.52% on the day. Nothing like being back above 40 on X day. Very nice. LFGY up as well, 1.64% or 46 cents. That's more than their distribution. And then SLTY, if the markets rally, SLTY's not going to like that, but they actually didn't drop by that much. They were up all day and just barely finished negative 0.19%. We'll start off with Ulti and are looking at our trades. No shares swapped, no buying or selling of shares, just options. So we're closing portion of the put spread on, what are they, analog devices, ADI. That brought in 298,000, so they're adjusting them closer to the money to bring in more premium. They did actually roll out to next week though. All right, next up, IBIT. Same thing, they're rolling the put spread portion of it to next week, bringing in $387,000. Let's see, they bought to close 48s and sold 51s. Morgan Stanley, this was share prices going up beyond the strike. So they closed out, but it wasn't a complete. That's why you don't have the orange, because it's not going to be under construction on the next page. It'll still be there tomorrow. But they did roughly half of their collar strategy. That cost them $439,000. Micron Technology. This one went beyond their strike price as well, closing and rolling to next week. Cost $1.7 million. Palantir performed well as well. Also, so share prices went up again. About half of the position got rolled to next week at a higher strike. The rest got left alone. That cost $574,000. New Scale Power closing out collar strategy, rolling to next week. Looks like we're dropping the strike price as well. That brought in $980,000. And SoFi closing the collar strategy for this week, selling for next week, dropping the strike price to $28.50, $465,000 credit. So all in all, they actually spent $604,000 at MU and Palantir, over $2.2 million just between the two of them. So hard to come back from that, but that's actually okay, because that means the share prices increased. And overall, share prices within the fund went up by about 2.7 million. Switching pages, we look at the weighted move. If you owned everything in the fund, 0.57% increase is what you would have had today. Having Ulti, you had a 0.54. I don't know if that's settled out for the end of the day yet or not. Let's see what 0.52, 0.54, either way. So to be an Ulti and capture just about all the upward movement, and to be getting paid a distribution where you wouldn't if you had these, it's a good day to be an Ulti. All right, looking at the underlyings within it, Alcoa up 2.6%. Calls are still 5% out of the money. Puts are still 3% out. Analog up 1.9%. It did take their calls into the money. They adjusted their puts, left the calls alone, but the calls are now 0.5% in the money. Amazon up 1.6%, sitting kind of right in between the strikes. Calls are 3% out. Puts are almost 3% out of the money. Broadcom went up 1.64%. Unfortunately, they were already in the money when the day started, so now they're further, 1.9%. Cash, there's $17 million. Finally, they got the First American Government Obligations funds back 34 million. The two combined for about 51 million in total. Call it dry powder or just money on the side. Coinbase down 0.8%. Calls are 3.6% out of the money. Circle Internet Group down 0.5%. Their closer calls are still in the money by 1.5%, and their further outs are almost 3%. GDX up 1.7%. Calls are still 0.8% out of the money, and puts are 2.8% out. SPDR Gold shares up 0.4%. They've got a put spread for this week right here. Puts are 1% out of the money, and then expiring sometime next week, I believe it's Monday, they have a normal collar strategy. Those calls are 2.8% out. Alphabet, Google up pretty much 1%, still 3% out on the calls and 2.4% out on the puts. HCA Healthcare was down 4% today. Their calls are now about 8.8% out of the money, and puts have gone into the money by 1.3%. Robinhood down just a hair, 5 cents total, 6% out of the money still on their calls. IBIT down 0.68%. Calls are about 1 and 4.7% out of the money. Puts did get closed and rolled on the previous page. Iron Limited was the biggest loser today, down 6.2%, bringing their calls 9.2% out of the money. J-Bill up 0.84%. That did take their calls into the money by 1 penny. So I know it says 0%, so that would actually be at the money, but not in the money. But when we look at it, we can tell they are 1 penny in the money. That'd be perfectly fine if they sat there the rest of the week. Puts are 13% out. Lamb Research Corp up about 1.5%. Took their calls in the money by 0.4%, and their puts are 7.8% out. Morgan Stanley, we saw a partial roll on these, so half are now rolled to next week. The other half are still here to finish the week out. Increased by 0.5%. Calls are now 1.25% in the money. Puts are 2.6% out. Micron Technology, the big winner, up almost 4.5%. Everything got rolled. Palantir up 3.3%, taking their calls in the money by 1.5%. We saw about half of the positions get rolled to next week. The other half got left alone. Quanta Services up 0.9. Calls are 1.6 and 6% out of the money, and puts are 13.5% out. Southern Copper was up 2.5%. Their calls are still 0.6% out of the money, and puts are 13% out. NewScale Power down 4.6%. Everything got rolled. SoFi Technology up 1%. Everything got rolled. TLT up 0.39%, sitting right in the sweet spot there. Calls are out by 0.7%, and puts are out by 0.3%. And Twilio, 4.1% increase. Did take the calls into the money just barely by a nickel. They're fine. Puts are 6.7% out of the money. So that's how you had a $2.7 million increase in the value of the shares within the fund. So that does not mean that the fund increased by $2.7 million. Again, that's just the shares. Every change changed the options as well, so they will have increased and decreased. It's pretty complex to get to your final net assets. The average call is still over 3% out of the money, so we can keep moving up this week. And puts are nice and safe, 5.5% out. Yesterday, people sold out of the fund 150,000 shares, so it's getting some weird numbers. 32,327,500. There's 1.2, almost 1.3 billion in assets under management. The NAV at the start of the day, 39.95. Closing, this says 40.12. We saw the other thing said 40.11. Either way, and so tomorrow is payday, and we will receive that. I forget what the number was. 54.61 cents per share. All right, next up, we've got LFGY. Got it on the wrong screen. Bringing it over. All right, so what they did is sold a portion of every underlying 100 to 200,000 dollars worth of everything. You can see it right here. I did go through and verify it's everything. And then as we scroll through the options, all it is the closing out of options associated with that quantity of shares. So there is no, take that back. Not that there is no. Bitmine immersion is a complete closeout. We'll see if there was any more. We'll come back to that one in just a second. Yeah, everything else is just closing out associated with what was there. So we'll just do this real quick and total it all up. And that cost 224,000. So Bitmine's going to have gone up today. Let's see before I talk too long and say something wrong. Yeah, up almost 3%. Calls were way in the money, so makes perfect sense why closing and rolling to next week is going to cost you 224,000. But big picture, all options trading totaled up today for a credit of 6,800, so just about break even. $1.4 million decrease in the value of the shares within the fund. So that makes you wonder, well, how did LFGY go up today if if they spent that much, or if they dropped in value that much? And so what you got is a couple different things. One, the share price got a little too low yesterday, so it was trading well below the NAV. So you're gonna get some upward movement to catch back up to the NAV, as well as if things drop just right, then it's gonna decrease the cost to close out the options, and as long as those negative numbers decrease by a nice large amount, overall your assets will increase. So let's go ahead and look through. We just saw that we did close and roll Bitmine immersion. Bullish up 0.2, calls are 6% out of the money. Bitmine up 2.9%. Everything got rolled. BitDeer down 6%. Calls are 13% out. Cash is in the negative, and there's not enough government obligation funds to make up for it. So overall, they got negative $500,000 sitting on the sideline. Cypher down 5.5%. Calls are 10, almost 11% out. CleanSpark down 2.1%. Calls are 6.6% out. Coinbase down 0.82%. Calls are pretty close to at the money, 0.03% in. Core Scientific down 0.9, about 1% out on their calls. Circle Internet Group down 0.5%. Calls are 1.8% out. ETHA was up 0.87%. Unfortunately, those calls were already in the money, so as that share price increased, the cost to close out those calls would have increased dollar for dollar. Galaxy Digital up 0.25, same story. They were in the money already, so cost to close out's gonna follow that dollar for dollar. GameStop down 4.25. Calls are 10.7% out. Robinhood down just a hair, 0.04% or 5 cents. Calls are 0.25% out and 6.8% out. Deep in the money calls are still doing just fine, 63% in the money. Those are purchased calls. Hut 8 Corp up 2.5%. Again, already in the money, so didn't get to capture that. It's going to have get eaten up by the increase in option cost. IBIT was down 0.6. Calls are 2.8% out. Iron Limited was the big loser, 6.23% decrease. Calls are now 7% out of the money. Mara was down 2.69%. Calls are 4.8% out. I forgot to update this. Let's check it real quick. MBTX 218.64. I didn't update this yesterday either because I had a rough day. So yesterday's video was very much delayed because we had no power from the time I got home all the way till almost 9 o'clock at night. Tonight's issue was when I pulled into the driveway and got out of my truck, I could hear a hissing and had a flat tire. So I had to change my tire, and I had a light bulb out. So change the tire and a light bulb. right when I got home from work. Sob story's over. Mercado Libre is down 5% today, almost 7% out on their calls now. Strategy down 2.3%. Calls are 1.5% out. NU Holdings up almost a tenth. They're doing a put spread on this one, so puts are out of the money by 1%. Nvidia was down 0.64%. They were practically at the money. They're now 0.66% out of the money. Opera up 1.16%, very close to at the money now with the calls. Puts are 7% out. PayPal Holdings up 0.6%. They need to keep moving because they're trading a put spread here. So we need to go up at least another 1.37%. Get to capture all upward movement because just got so actually when you're trading it like this and it moves up, you capture all the upward movement of the shares plus the cost to close out your options decreases at the same time. Whereas if you're selling calls, the call price goes up if your share price goes up. So when you're trading a put credit spread there, it's actually, and things move up, it works double in your favor. Riot Platforms, 0.39% increase, leaves their calls 2.7% out. SharpLink Gaming, the big winner, 3.6% increase. Unfortunately, didn't get to capture it because calls were already in the money and went further to 4.3%. And Block up 2.7%, took their calls into the money by 0.4%. So that's how you had $1.4 million decrease in the value of the shares alone. There's $177 million in assets under management. Average call is still 2.25% out of the money, so we can capture more upside this week. No change in outstanding shares, and NAV at the start of the day and closing price pretty much right on with each other, 1 penny off. Okay, last up is SLTY. Also on the wrong screen. And we just have a couple of trades. Didn't mean to leave that there. Closing out some of their shorts on Applied Digital and AppLovin, but it's just a small portion. It was not the complete closeout, so we still have both of them within the fund. And then so they're going to close out the options associated with that quantity. Right? If you get rid of 6,800 shares, that's going to equate to 68 contracts. Similarly with AppLovin, 300 is going to be 3. So those are just closeouts, and then they've rolled a position on energy. What do we call on UU? Energy fuels. All right, that got rolled the next week. All in all, they had a debit on their options trading side of things today, $85,000, and their share values increased by $48,000. So taking a look. Quickly, Adobe down a third, and that's a good thing, right? If you shorted it, you want things to go down. Applied Digital down 5%, took their puts in the money. AppLovin down almost 3%. Calls are still out. Builders First down 4.25, took their puts in the money. They got plenty of cash on the side. Well, this fund's different because you don't have any money into the underlyings. You actually have negative money. You start off by selling them. So it's a lot harder to figure out money on the side in this fund. But most of it's in treasuries. Then you got cash. Then you got government obligation funds. Chipotle was up 2/3. Puts are still out. Salesforce up 1%. Puts are out by 5. Enphase up 3.9. That hurts. Almost 7% out of the money on their puts. Lemonade down about 1%. Live Nation down a little. Oracle up 0.8. Ouster up 1.6. Pagaya down 0.5%. Options are way out. Royal Caribbean, the biggest winner, which is a bad thing over here. 4.86% increase. Their sold calls have actually gone into the money by 0.1%. Rigetti going in the right direction. Unfortunately, that 7.4% drop took their puts into the money by 7.2%. So they really only got to capture about 0.25% of a great move. That's sad. Synopsys up 2%. Target up 1%. Texas Instruments up 1%. You're not supposed to have everything going up when you're shorting it. UPS up 2 3/4. Energy fuels down 3.15%. We saw those options get rolled, and wind resorts down 0.5%. So that's how you had a $48,000 increase in values. There's 24 million in assets under management. Average put's still 4% out. So if things drop 4%, SLTY's price can go up 4%. 700,000 outstanding shares. Here NAV at the start of the day, 34.53, closing around 34.25. Again, tomorrow's payday. Sorry, I'm in a rush. I got to get out the door here in about 5 minutes to head to church. So I got a dad joke for you. Let me flip the calendar. All right. Thank you for watching. Should say that. Appreciate all the support. Man, everything is on the wrong screen. So, dad joke of the day. Why is it bad to iron your 4-leaf clovers? Because you shouldn't press your luck. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Good luck trading tomorrow, and I'll catch you in the next video.